Let's now return to the developing story about the prolonged blackout in the north. And joining us for more on this is Chief Technical Advisor to the Minister of Power, Adebayo, Olowoniyi. Mr. Olowoniyi, what exactly is responsible for this prolonged blackout in the north, and how much of work has gone into restoring power in that region?
Okay. Well, first of all, I would like to say thank you very much for having me on the show and giving us the opportunity to explain what's actually going on. The reason for the blackout in the north is mainly because one of the major transmission lines supplying the north, which is the Shiroro-Mando line that goes to Kaduna, had been vandalized. And typically there is an alternative route that is used to supply power to the north through the Ugaji axis, through Makurdi, and that also then had a challenge. So that was actually the main reason why when the Shiroro-Mando line had been vandalized, there was no additional opportunity to reroute power to the north. But what is currently happening is that the restoration of the Ugaji-Makurdi axis line is being worked on, and we expect that in the next 2 to 3 days, that line should be restored, and the north should have at least 80% capacity, and then we will continue to work on the Shiroro-Mando line to Kaduna. And the Honorable Minister of Power met His Excellency yesterday, the President, and he indicated support through the NSA that they will support us in providing protection to those who are going to be able to fix the line. Because the challenge has been the fact that in that axis there's a lot of vandalization, and we need security operatives to protect those that will be going to fix the line. So that has been the challenge, but we have an alternative route now that is being worked on, and we expect that axis to be up and going in the next 2 days.
All right, so when power is finally restored in this region, will this oversight of providing security, across, the power line, would it be a continuous exercise, or what is the plan in place to ensure that this issue of vandalism and insecurity does not cause this problem again?
Yeah, I think, look, I have to be honest, it's a challenge to actually monitor by security forces the thousands of kilometers of transmission line in the whole country. And it will be a significant drain on resources. I think, of course, the government has to continue to focus on insurgencies and vandalization, but what we probably have to do is really focus on some of those key areas where the vandals are operating and ensure that those areas are protected. The challenge with that is that when you protect one area, they could easily move into another area. So, of course, the hope is that as we continue to focus on security measures in the country, that drives down the level of insecurity and actually allows less interruptions through vandalization to transmission and electricity infrastructure.
All right. And as it stands now, we know that the president, of course, has appealed to leaders across different sectors to ensure that they support the drive to protect these infrastructure. And then importantly, the minister has mentioned that during this period of the blackout, nobody would be billed. Has there been a concrete arrangement and agreement with Dissects to this effect?
I think in general, where there is no energy supplied for metered customers, there will be no consumption. So I believe that goes with the process. I think where the additional discussions have to be is with those customers that are unmetered, and we'll have to further have those discussions with the distribution companies in the areas that have been affected.
All right then. And as we move on, what is a permanent solution to this challenge? I know some have called for maybe states, to generate power, and you don't necessarily have to have everyone on the national grid, to enjoy electricity Correct. Supply. Yes. So what is the recommendation, and what is the Power Ministry doing?
Oh, of course. I think we have quite a few solutions. Of course, I've spoken about the short-term solution to address the situation immediately. In terms of from the medium to long term, there are quite a few solutions. One is the super grid that we are just getting approval from Mr. President on, where it's the eastern and western super grid is going to be a backup grid to the existing grid that would allow alternative routes for energy to be transmitted to different parts of the country. I think it's very, very important because anyways, in most national grids, you have an N-1 redundancy, which typically we don't have in Nigeria. And that is why whenever there's a challenge in one segment, we don't have an alternative route most of the time to transmit energy through. But I believe that with the eastern and western supergrid, this will truly give us a capacity to have a failover grid and to have alternative routes to be able to deliver energy. The second strategy and that we are going to implement is, especially in the north, where you have up to 10 to 12 hours of sunlight and strong solar rays. You know, we are working on solar projects that will embed at least 50 megawatts of electricity in every state in the north, which then allows them to be able to generate within the state at least a certain level of energy that can be consumed locally that will not be interrupted when there's a grid interruption or there's a grid failure. So it's actually quite critical that we have embedded energy as part of our energy mix, which actually allows us to have some security of supply when there's an issue or when there's a challenge to the national grid. So what we're going to do is really try to focus on the north, where we know that there's significant solar rays to generate 10 to 12 hours of electricity, and it will still help to have a least cost generation because, of course, affordability too is still a challenge. So we have to make sure that that cost of electricity is at least generated at an affordable level.
All right, then. The TCN has told us in 5 days power to be restored. You've said in 2 to 3 days we should have 80% of power restored in the north. Let's see how it goes. Correct. Chief Technical Advisor to the Minister of Power, Adebayo, Olowoniyi, thank you for talking to us on TVC News at 1.
Thank you very much for having me.